This is Window Arch in Arches National Park. Most of you probably know these ones. You've seen that picture before, right? No? Never seen that one? Well, not that one, but you've seen that's Arches National Park. So if you ever go to the U.S., make sure you get yourself down to southern Utah. We have this thing called the Colorado Plateau, which it's essentially high desert that the Colorado River cut through, and you get amazing rock formations like this, and you also get fun stuff like this, which I'm sure you've seen some of these pictures, like this one. I'm sure people have seen Zion National Park. When you go through the slot canyons, it is freaking cool. It is awesome. All right, so is that enough time procrastination? It looks like I still have... Nope, it just struck 14:45, which means I am officially 10 seconds late. So, thanks all for coming. Scrum for Managers, Mitch Lacey. Audience for this talk is people that are considering adopting Scrum, trying to learn something about it, and you want to be able to implement it in your organization, inside your company, and you want to know what to expect or what not to expect. You'll see some research in here, some data in here towards the end. I think I have to stay in the light to make the camera happy, because if I go over here, then it doesn't like me. There's some data in here at the end on, from a management perspective, from a manager-leader perspective inside the organization, what you need to expect when transitioning to this stuff. Quick show of hands, is anybody doing crazy Agile stuff today? Smaller than I thought. So this is cool. It's about 10%. Excellent. Here's a little bit. Thank you. Here's a little bit about me. How's everybody with English? Again, growing up in California, I tend to talk very fast. Blah, 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 right? Because, nobody in California can keep their head screwed on straight. So I tend to talk fast. Information about me. I'm the author of the Scrum Field Guide. New book. Just got it done. Very happy about that. Here's contact information. I have business cards up here if you want. But in order to make this a little more fun, I have 2 copies of this book. I don't want to bring them home. I live in Seattle, so I actually live about 5 miles from Microsoft's main campus, where I used to work. Work and play, if you will. I had the opportunity to spend 24 hours there. After 24 hours. Anybody ever worked in a service organization where your systems have to stay online and you find out that at the end, whenever you try to deliver, something doesn't work? Anyone been in that situation? Yeah, I have. So how this is going to work is, let's see who can correctly answer this first question. First hand I see, I'm going to call on, okay? So you got to be quick on the draw. If you get it wrong, then I'm going to go to the next hand that I see. Oh. What was it? 4. Is that right or wrong? Wrong. Who was the next hand that okay, hold on. Every hand down on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Right there. 3. 3 is the correct answer. Whoops. 3 is the... Yeah, it's 3. All right. I obviously screwed up my animations. This is what you get for doing last-minute stuff. How about that one? Fastest selling Microsoft operating system of all times on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Windows 7. Correct. How do you know that? Lucky guess? Because of Vista. There was a... Let me put my former employee hat on. Vista was an excellent operating system. It went on to sell 40 million copies. Of course, the true answer, Windows 7 outsold Vista 3 times, outsold any Microsoft operating system within the same time period. So it's a bit of a trick. Incorrect. It was there before. And that is not a word I can pronounce accurately, and I'm not going to attempt it. My buddy at Active, Robert, said to me, he said, Mitch, this is how you say it. And I said, I'm American. You'll have to excuse me. Speaking of fun things, I don't know if you've done it. I have a bunch of beer tickets. Does anybody like beer? If you like beer, come and get a beer ticket before, during, or after the show, because this will get you good and drunk. Courtesy of my buddy Robert. Just don't take all of them because, because that's a lot of beer. That'd be like 50 liters. I mean, it'd be entertaining as long as we could put it on YouTube and film it. So I'm still doing a contest for my book. If you want to go on my blog, you can add a piece of text, and it's going to be a random drawing. So with all that said and done, all the fun stuff out of the way, the job of a manager is this. All right, now this is a traditional Wikipedia type approach. The one I like the most, of course, is that one, number 4, a theatrical producer, right? A manager. A boss, somebody who tells other people what to do. Is anybody a manager? Who's a manager? Raise your hand if you're a manager or a boss or you have people that work for you. Anyone? Anyone? How about if you work for people? If you have a boss? So again, everyone that's married. Okay, I'm married. I have a boss. She tells me what to do, when to do it. We're going here for dinner, and you're going to wear this. It's so much easier that way. I've just learned to accept it. Okay. When we think about management in terms of traditional business sense, this is the stuff we talk about. What we're talking about control. We're talking about processes. We're talking about rules. We're talking about constraints. Here's what I want you to do. Here's how you're going to do it. And here's when I want it done. People become committed. They don't commit. Now, the difference between being an agile leader and a traditional leader is just that word right there, is leadership, okay? When you think about a manager uses his authority to tell people what to do. I sound like Darth Vader. Thank you. A leader, on the other hand, uses influence to achieve the results that they want. Influence over authority. Now, as the speaker in the room, right, I have authority. I could say, everybody rise, and you're all going to roll your eyes and go, oh, I have to stand up. I just ate lunch. I have a food baby. Okay, I don't want to stand up. But you'll stand up because I have the authority. If I want, I would say, wouldn't it feel really good on your knees right now if you were to extend them? Some of you would go, yeah, let's take this opportunity to be able to extend your knees if you like. And then half of you would stand up. Influence. When we're talking about this stuff in terms of an agile sense, it goes back to what I said before, where people are committed. If I commit somebody to do something, are they actually committed? Yes or no? No, they're not. Which often results in the fact that they're going to do the least amount of work possible in order to achieve the result that you ask them to do. Get this done. There, it's done. That's not good quality, but it's done. Right? When we're talking about leadership, we're talking about pushing that responsibility, pushing that accountability down to the individual, down to where it belongs, which is, frankly, in the trenches with the teams. Teams have to be accountable. So when we talk about being a manager in Scrum, what we're really talking about is we've got to understand what this crazy agile stuff is. Everybody's heard of it, right? Everybody's picked up a magazine somewhere that said, we have this company that is doing Agile and Scrum and XP, because, you know, they're all different or they're all the same, we'll see. But they achieve 5,000% value or $20 million in savings or some astronomical claim where the organization was able to achieve just crazy things. So, of course, you read that as a manager and you go back to your office and you say, all right, guys, we're going to do Scrum. Ready? Here's a book. Read it. Tomorrow, we're going to start and you're going to be 400% better. Has anybody lived through that? Awesome. I'm not alone. Okay? I'm not alone. So we need to understand what Agile is, and then we'll dive into what Scrum is, your role as a manager, and then I'm going to tell you about a little bit of case studies. Okay? And that's how we'll wrap it up. About an hour. I think I'm going to have time for questions. I don't know. As you can tell, I kind of talk a lot. Again, byproduct of California. So, come on. You can do it. You can do it. It's only a quad core with 8 gigs of RAM, so you'll have to excuse me. little slow. All right. In order to understand what Agile is, we have to understand what it isn't. I hear a lot of people say, we do the Agile method. The Agile method. And I think to myself, wow, that's cool. Tell me about that. And they go, we do stand-ups. Stand-ups. So that means you stand up while you work? No, we meet once a day. Oh, that's Agile? Yeah, that's Agile. Has anyone ever heard that before? How about the we do Agile, therefore we don't document? Anybody do that one? Yeah, or how about we do Agile, therefore we don't need to test? Yeah, we don't need to test. We don't need to do any of that stuff, right? So it's not a silver bullet like we talked about before. It's not a single method. It's not a single framework. It's not an excuse to do whatever you want. A lot of people think it is. But when you think about it being an excuse, what it really comes down to is the fact that it's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of thinking, and it's a different way of doing. Now, the doing, these are the practices, okay? These are the Scrum and the XP and the DSDMs and the Leans and the Kanbans and insert crazy buzzword here frameworks that you do. I really love extreme programming. I also like Scrum. I think Scrum and extreme programming are like peanut butter and chocolate, or coffee and more coffee. It's just good. Okay, it's just good. I mean, you've all shot in the dark, right? You put the espresso shot inside of a normal cup of coffee. Oh, how can you go wrong with that? Okay? So, when you think about this, it's a different, Agile becomes a set of values and principles. Different way of thinking. Now, I was in, has anybody been to a country where they drive on the other side of the road, where you're not familiar with? We could say the wrong side, but, it's only wrong to us. So I'm in South Africa about a month ago, and I rent a car. And I haven't driven on the other side of the road since I was in Belfast about 10 years ago, doing some work when I had a different company. And I get in the car and I go, all right, you can do this. And I'm saying this to myself out loud. Just remember one thing. Stay left. Stay left, stay left, stay left. So I pull out and I go, oh, left. It was hard to think. Right? It was hard to think. I turned on the radio and I got distracted. I had to turn the radio off. It's kind of crazy. But when we get back to this, values and principles, why we do what we do, and I'll tell you about this one here in a minute, we have to understand just what I said, why. Raise your hand if you took a shower this morning. Not everyone. That's okay, because some of you took a shower last night, but I bet most of you took a shower in the last 36 hours. Yeah. Good. Your neighbors thank you. Now, I've got little kids. My little kids, 7 and soon to be 9, his birthday is on Cinco de Mayo. So if you have been to the U.S., you'll understand the importance of that Mexican day. Okay, because it's an excuse to go out and drink. So when he's 17, I'm sure I'm going to have lots of problems. Hey, it's my birthday. It's Cinco de Mayo. You all understand why you took a shower. Right? You did it to stay clean. You did it to prevent disease. You did it to remove germs. You did it to smell good. You did it to wake up. My kids do not understand this. When we say to the kids, take a bath, take a shower, of course, little kids say, I don't want to. I don't want to take a shower, Dad. But you stink. Get in the shower, please. And they complain, right? Does anybody know any developers or people at work like that? When you ask them to do something and they complain, I don't wanna. Right? That's the toddler syndrome. As a manager, you're dealing with the toddler syndrome on a regular basis because, again, you don't have the commitment of individuals. Adults are committed. Adults understand why it's important to bathe and shower. Teenagers, on the other hand, of which I have one. Anyone have the pleasure of having a raging hormonal teenager at home? It's really fun because their brains don't develop, yet their hormones do, so it's haywire. Just wait for those of you parents that you have this opportunity. It's enjoyable. It's enjoyable. Can't reason with a teenager, right? We could say that there's a light on me right now, that there's a computer in front of me. No, that's not a computer, that's a tablet. It's the same thing. No, it's different. It's different. I have to be right. You know teenagers at work? Anybody have teenagers at work? Anybody act like a teenager at work? Yeah. Lots of us. the why, understanding why we do things is one of these core fundamental things that as a leader inside of an organization you have to understand, and you have to get your people to understand. Because the leadership stuff is based on the values and principles in this Agile. The Agile values and principles, okay? So in that we have the Agile Manifesto. Who's seen this before? Raise your hand. Good. My favorite one is working software. Because working software shows you in real time what it is you're able to see and do. It gives you real-time status of your project. So in a traditional approach, what we would do is go build a project plan, march through the project plan. We get 50% complete. And what have we generated? Volumes of documentation, maybe some designs. Do we have anything that's working? No, we don't. If we take a more agile approach and we say refactoring is accepted, throwaway code is accepted, we acknowledge the fact that we're not going to get it right the first time, suddenly working software has more value because we're able to see it, feel it, touch it. When I can see, feel, touch things, I'm able to make decisions on if I like them. For example, I bought a new phone recently. As you can see, it is huge. I do not like big phones. But my old one was annoying me. It was a 3.7 inch, whatever that translates to. This is a 4.5 Galaxy Nexus, okay? I thought I would like it. But now that I see it and feel it and touch it, I don't. And I had to go and look at all my friends' phones because they all have similar ones. I put it in my pocket over and over and over again. Right? I just don't like it. Now, if I wouldn't have done that research and I would have just bought the phone outright and said, oh, it meets all the functional specs, yet it doesn't fit in my pocket, suddenly I just throw away $500. But since I tested it, I sort of knew what I was getting into. This is why working software is so important. People often use that as an excuse to not document. And you can see on here, right? Over-comprehensive documentation. To me, this really becomes, it's not that we don't document, it's the fact that we document historically. I went to the Vasa Museum. Really fascinating. I did a lot of reading. And I would have bet that everything that I read was factual. Would you agree? Factual? Cool. So I went to the new museum next door. I don't know if you guys saw this. It's the history of Sweden in the year 3000. It was really cool. They had all sorts of great stuff on there about what great Swedish inventors created in 600 years from now. Anyone been there? I forget what it's called. I think it's called the Fiction Museum. Right? What's the... yeah, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's because there's not really a museum there. But if we associate documentation and we say, here's what we're going to build, what are we writing? Fiction or nonfiction? Fiction. What if we take documentation and we say, here's what the system does? What are we writing? Fiction or nonfiction? Are we writing fact or desire? Everyone's going, that's right, is the correct answer. Fact is the correct answer. Understanding the stuff is important as understanding why you get up in the morning and take a shower. You should walk through this with your customers. Most importantly, as a manager, you should walk through this with your team and as an organization and say, what do these things mean to us as a company? Do we value these or not? Because you don't have to. But if you do, and if you think about it and you really drive towards it and understand why you're doing it, suddenly you have good synergy inside the organization, which, as managers and leaders, I will argue that you want to build. Is it hard to find good people here? Is it hard to hire good people? Unemployment's not at 50%, so it better be. Okay? And when you hire good people, you want to keep them. If you create a learning environment based on a common set of principles and values, you're able to do that, as long as everybody understands why. These then get built on the practices. Okay? So we've got, come on. Oh. These, Scrum and Extreme Programming are the big ones. Extreme Programming is an engineering framework, set of engineering practices. It overlaps with Scrum. Again, doing this is like chocolate and peanut butter. I love Extreme Programming because I love test-driven development and I love pair programming. And you're thinking to yourself, pair programming? That's ludicrous. It's like, no, he's a rap star. Okay? It's ridiculous. It may be. Why is it ridiculous? Because it costs twice as much. Does pair programming cost twice as much? No, doesn't. There's studies that show it takes about 15% longer to have two people work on a single task versus one. But it also, studies show that you have, on average, 50% higher quality. Not only that, but I'm creating a learning organization where I have people understanding various bits of the code, so if somebody's sick, we don't have to stop the project. You ever been in that situation? Billy's on vacation, therefore the project's on hold. That's my favorite one. Because as a customer, that's what I want to hear. Oh, the project's on hold because you structure your company poorly. Thank you. Okay. People are laughing because they're like, you're describing my company. But of course I'm not, because it's all fictitious. All right. Why would we ever want to do this crazy agile stuff? Here's how you sell your customers on it. Here's what I like to do. Okay? I draw this out. Requirements, technology. Put a little constraint on there. Do we agree or disagree on the technology and the requirements? Well, let's say that we, I don't know, agree. We're right down there at the bottom. That's the simple zone. If I was to ask any of you that are developers today to write a currency converter for me, currency conversion web service, we want to do, I don't know, euros, pounds, crowns, dollars, throw another one in there, input the value for one, hit calculate, populates the rest of them. You could probably do that today. It's easy. But farther away we get from this, the harder it gets. The less clarity we have, the more ambiguity we have, the more anarchy we have. So what we do in this crazy agile world is we take that stuff that's complex and anarchist, we pull it down into that simple zone. We focus on it for a couple weeks, bang it out, and come back to our customers and say, we heard what you said. Is this what you meant? Does that make sense? We heard what you said. Is this what you meant? The quicker you can do that, the faster you'll be at building what your customers want. If you decide to give your customer one opportunity to do that, right? We heard what you said. A year later, is this what you meant? No, it's wrong. Oh, okay, well, we've already spent all the money and we're out of time. Right? As a customer, my response is going to be something along the lines of, good for you, or GFY for short. Told you, anybody following the Twitter thread, that's the challenge I have to all speakers, is to weave that in. Good for you, or GFY for short. I don't know what it means other than good for you. But as a customer, I don't want to hear that. Right? I want as many opportunities as possible to be able to influence change. More importantly, I don't even want to pay for the change. I do this with my customers. I draw that out. I ask them to go put dots on the board. I build it, and I say, the majority of us fall in complex. That means there's going to be change. And we talk about how to address it. Is that important to do? Sort of like before you get married, you should talk about if you want to have kids or not. I had a friend that made that mistake once. Really? So we're married, and we've been married for 5 years, and you don't want kids? No, we never talked about that before? That was interesting. We had some good conversations over beers on that one. As you can imagine. Like, what do I do? Okay? Now, we're all going to say this. We're all going to say, I don't have time for this. I don't want to do this crazy agile stuff. Blah, 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 blah. So there's a fun game. Are you ready? I want you to raise your hand and keep it up, because whoever does not raise their hand at the end of this, I want you guys to look around. You need to hire that person for, I don't know, a few million a year, because they're worth it. Ready to play? Number 1, have you ever missed a release date on your project? Not everyone. Hold on. Keep it up. Okay. Wow, I don't think I've ever gotten everyone the first time. All right. And how about this one? Missed your customer's expectations. Again, I'm married. Right? That happens on a regular. Gone over budget. Well, I'm married. Okay. How about this one? Had your requirements change? Oh, yeah. Give me more of the requirements change there. That's a good one. Or this one. You lose people, right? we have a little fire over here and we have a bigger fire over there, so let's take all the people here and put them over there, because after all, if you're good here, you should be good there. Albert Einstein's theory on insanity. What this means is you're all insane, okay? Doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. Does this sound familiar? It should, because what you'll say to yourself is, this time it'll be better. Not different, better. What's better? What's better? What's better mean? Better means that we assume that things will be different. What's assume mean? Anyone? Come on. You guys started speaking English before I did. It's a mother of all. Yes. I like that answer, and I'm not going to repeat it on the microphone, because then everybody that goes and watches online is going to be like, did he say that? Yes, he did. All right. To assume is essentially to make an ass out of you and me. A-S-S-U-M-E. Assume. Heard that one before? Yeah. So whenever you meet with your customers and they say, we assume the following, you just laugh and go, ha 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 ha. We're screwed. All right. Don't do the same thing over and over again. So, hurdle with a defined approach. Who remembers Windows XP? I loved Windows XP. Only I loved it in 2004, not in 2002, because in 2000, well, it was actually October 2001, if memory serves. When it came out then, I thought, wow, this is really cool. But then, when the Service Pack 2 came out, I said, this was what I really wanted. This is what I really wanted. But we were stuck as a company, because the organization had to drive to point B in order to figure out that it needed to go to C, because that's what the plan said. The plan said, go to B. Follow the plan. But we have the Department of Justice getting all up in there, and we have this, and security concerns, and the internet is going to stick around and be real. How are we going to handle security? Well, we'll figure that out in 2 years. Anybody remember those cowboy days? Okay. How do we get around this? Well, simple. Instead of doing the stuff that it says on the slide, you start off with your plan and you start inspecting. How are we doing? What do we need to change? Are we on the right path for our architecture? Are we building the right thing? Are our customers asking for something? And are we acknowledging that this is what they meant? We heard what you said. Is this what you meant? Stimulus to response. And you end up going to C directly. The problem here is that you don't know where C is in the beginning. And of course, customers want to know fixed time, fixed scope, fixed budget, fixed everything. How many bugs are you going to have? Because if it's more than 0, I don't like you. It'll be more than 0. Do I have to pay for that? Yes. And they get even more mad. Now, here's the kicker, right? I said you don't know where C is in the beginning. You don't know where B is either. And if you say you do, you're lying. It's just a matter of when you acknowledge your lie. Has anybody ever found themselves in that situation where you say, we're going to deliver on April 15th, April 30th, May 1st, and you figure out on, I don't know, let's go with May 1st. You figure out on April 28th, holy crap, our architecture's screwed. We're going to miss May 1st. We're going to deliver in August instead. Yeah, it's just a matter of when you realize that you lie. And we all do. I have. I mean, heck, I'll even tell you right now I'm going to be done on time. I'm not. Sorry. I'll be done early instead. All right. You have to understand this. Structuring your work like this, right, this is all based on working software. This ties right back to the values and principles of understanding working software over comprehensive documentation, responding to change, right? That Agile Manifesto comes back into play here. You embrace that stuff, this becomes easy. If you fight it, this becomes hard. Simple as that. One of the biggest challenges is going to be selling your customers. And when you want to sell your customer, you can take two approaches. You can say, all right, well, you're giving us a set of features that you want. They're, of course, all equal in priority. And what we're going to do is go figure out how long it'll take, how much it'll cost. We'll say it takes, I don't know, million euros in a year. Of course, the customer will come back and say it takes, complete the sentence, it takes. Yeah, too long and too much. Thank you. Thank you for having courage. Or just for understanding me in my fast-talking California ways. Right? Yeah, customers say it takes too long and it costs too much. Unacceptable, they say. So you go back and you figure out, how can we trim the edges, remove the fat? Right? Have you been there? I've been there. How can we trim it so that we can come in on time and on budget? And then we find a way to do it, and of course the customer signs the contract. Do they change the picture in their mind? Absolutely not. The picture in their mind remains the same, which means when you do not deliver what's in their mind, you deliver what's on paper, you're going to have a real fun conversation. Because your response is, we delivered per the contract. Their response will be, but it doesn't do what we need. And this is where, as an organization, as leaders inside of a company, you need to figure out what's more important, making the paper happy or making the customer happy. And that's, frankly, that sucks. Okay? So what do? There is an alternative approach, obviously. I have it on the picture. We flip it around and we say, we can deliver X. We can deliver 20 story points per sprint, right? An abstract unit of measure. 20 story points per sprint. And each sprint costs you 20,000. And we think the project's going to take 10 sprints, therefore it's 200 grand, and we think we're going to fit this into the glass. We'll put that much in. But I need more, they say. Give me more. I have to have more. Why do you have to have more? What they say is irrelevant. What they mean is, because I'm too lazy to figure out how to prioritize my work, so I'm just going to throw it all in the same bucket and deliver everything, and then we'll sort out what we need later. Because figuring that out now is hard. So we have this role called the product owner, where they go through, they help the customer figure that stuff out. And then, if you're good at it, you can deliver early and under budget. And hopefully you structure your contract so that you get a little extra kickback for delivering early and for delivering under budget, which is a longer story. All right. So then we hear this, okay, cool. Well, now we know what Agile is, but what's this Scrum thing? Because Scrum is just another practice, right? It's just another practice inside of Agile. True. Scrum's a framework on how to get stuff done. So Agile, think about Agile again as your principles and values. Think about Scrum as your practice. So in Scrum, what we have is, and we'll talk about each one of these, we've got a vision, right? We get a picture in our mind. And this image is up on my website if you want to go download it. We get a picture in our mind of what it is that we want. We then have a role called a product owner that we work with, and they populate this product backlog. They work with the team to estimate the product backlog, and they use a relative estimation technique called planning poker using story points. Then what we do is we say, Mr. Product Owner, what do you want? He says, I want 1 through 10. The team says, okay, no problem. We go deliver it. All right, they break it down into tasks. They stick it on something called the sprint backlog. We'll look at one of those. And then magic happens. And they have a daily stand-up meeting every day. I can tell the true nerds in the room because about 5 of you smiled when I used the force. All right, they have a daily stand-up meeting every day talking about what they did, what they're going to do. And then, poof, magic comes out the rear. And working software. Okay? So, oddly enough, again, all this stuff starts with, come on, there you go, values and principles as well. Scrum has its own set. Respect, commitment, courage, focus, openness. These are all things that good Scrum teams have. Right? And courage could be the courage to be able to say the right thing to your customer, whether or not they're going to want to hear it. Openness would be to be able to say, we have an extraordinarily large number of bugs. We're working on a legacy system. Anybody go to the legacy talk this morning? Did you like it? Yeah, right? How do we handle this? Well, here's the progress that we're making. These things are really hard to follow. And what I've found in doing this Agile stuff is these are things that I follow generally in life anyway. Yet when I would go to work, I would find myself not following them. And I thought that, when I reflected back, I thought that was a little weird. Why would I have different values and principles at work than I would at home with my family? Shouldn't I have courage at work, just like I do at home? Shouldn't I have respect at work, just like I do at home? Yeah, I think so. So I talked to my wife about it. She said, well, of course, dumbass. Get to work and be a nice guy. I said, but you're assuming I'm not a nice guy. She goes, and chuckled. And I said, huh, interesting. Okay. So, again, a different way of thinking, just like driving on the different side of the road. As a leader, as a manager inside your organization, you need to understand what these mean to you and what they mean to the company. And more importantly, what they mean to your customer. If your customer doesn't value this stuff, you're going to struggle. If there are people inside the company that don't value this stuff, you're going to struggle. This will help determine how you do your hiring practices as well. Because now suddenly you're going to ask yourself, do we hire for skill? Do we hire employees based on skill? Or should we hire them based on competency? Because I will argue any day that you could take a Java developer or a C# developer and they could learn another language in 3 to 6 months and be fairly proficient at it. They'll be good enough to be able to write mainline code, maybe even less than 3 months. But to be able to teach somebody courage or openness or respect, yeah, that's going to take a lot longer than 3 months. Just because the opportunity doesn't surface on a regular basis like it does, say, with code. So that's something as a manager to consider. How do we hire people in our company? How do we maintain the culture that we have? How do we build the culture that we want? I'll argue all the time, it's not based on skill. It's based on this crazy stuff. So, that's kind of cool. I'm doing that. It's an earthquake. Again, growing up in California, right? Anybody been in earthquakes? They're kind of fun. Right? They're kind of fun. I was in the big one in '89. I was watching the baseball game, and I'm kicking back, and all of a sudden, you hear the rumble, right? So this is a pretty loud one. You guys probably read about this one in the news, the San Francisco quake in '89. So I hear this little rumble. I'm like, oh, God, another earthquake. Grab my soda. Next thing you know, boom, the first wave hits, and the TV literally jumps on my lap. Holy crap, this is big! 45 seconds, then I tried to get out of the house as everything was falling. Stood in the doorway, I'm like, yeah, this is stupid. I'm next to a window. So, good, clean, fun earthquakes. Much better than tornadoes or tsunamis or anything like that. I like earthquakes because you know what to expect. Randomness. All right. Sort of like software. Randomness. All right. Scrum's a project management framework. It wraps existing engineering practices. You could wrap this in terms of waterfall. You could do a 4-week sprint. You could do a architecture sprint. You could do a coding sprint, a testing sprint, and then a figure everything else out sprint. Right? Didn't work. Or you could work to deliver something every day. Who does test-driven development? Who likes TDD? Who knows what test-driven development is? Maybe you don't like it. Okay. Red, green, refactor, right? Red, green, refactor. I like going home in a green state every single day. Go home green. So as a team member, if you take anything out of this, go home green. Because if you go home green, you're able to start green the next day. If you go home red, you got to figure out where you left off. And if you had beer the night before, it gets challenging. Anyone drink beer last night? Everyone raises their hand. Yeah, I drank beer last night. Okay. All right. So we got the team, we've got the artifacts, we got the meetings. Let's talk about one of those, and then I want to get into case studies. So the team is made up of 3 things, okay? We have 3 things. So we have the Scrum team as the product owner, the core team member, and we have the core team and the ScrumMaster. So when we look at what this is, just made a change to a slide. Pretty good, huh? Real time. When we look at what this is, when we talk about the ScrumMaster, I like to think about them as the oil in the engine. The oil in the engine. They're sort of making sure things are happening. They're not telling people what to do. They don't have authority over the team. They may have some level of responsibility, but their responsibility isn't to get them to do work. Their responsibility is to get them accountable so that they become committed to do the work that they commit to do. Different way of thinking. Scrum Masters use influence because they don't have authority. They don't provide solutions. They provide ideas. Teams make decisions. So Scrum Master should never say, here's the architectural direction that we're going. Because the team, that's a team decision. The team owns that. The Scrum Master's there to make sure things are flowing. They're not a secretary. They don't take notes. They facilitate. They have to deal with stuff like this. Because what they want to do is they want to get the team into a high-performing state. Who's seen this, Tuckman's Stages of Team Development? Raise your hand. Yeah, it's normal leadership reading stuff. Okay? Storming, forming, norming, performing. Anybody been on a crew boat before? Anybody rowed? Raise your hand. Row? You know what rowing is? You know what boats are? Okay, good. You know what boats are, and you know that people row boats. And I would gather about 1,000 years ago, there were a bunch of people that had boats that had paddles sticking out the side, and they rowed them, right? Well, of course, we don't do that anymore. It's a little more modern now. Now we race boats in the Olympics. You get a 4-man crew boat, right? The difference between gold and silver, that much. Why? Because somebody shifted their weight the wrong way. The difference between silver and whoever the next guy is could be really big. Why? Because they're just not that good. They're not dialed in. High-performing team on the right side, that's the job of a Scrum Master. Good Scrum Master puts himself out of a job. They build high-performing teams. They become self-managing. They become responsible. They become accountable. They learn how to say yes. They learn how to say no. Okay? The product owner, on the other hand, is outward-facing. They are customer-facing. They're dealing with the customer, figuring out, what do we need to do? What do we need to build? Tell me more about this vision of yours. And they get inside the head. They burrow. Right? They burrow inside the head and they figure out, what does he really mean? He's saying he wants blue, but what is blue? What is blue? Because there are lots of colors of blue. You got to figure out what that is. And there's a variety of ways to do that. Some are more challenging than others. But if you just say as a product owner, what do you want? I want blue. All right, done. Well, that's wrong, but you said blue. There's blue. Yeah, it's the wrong blue. That makes for an interesting conversation between the product owner and the customer, okay? Product owner, outward facing, they own that customer relationship, they own the budget, they own that product backlog, they're responsible for it. The team estimates it. Product owner is responsible for it, okay? This is I like this job. This is a fun job because you're extracting the vision out of the head of the customer. Then we have the team. Now, I'm a car guy. In case you could tell, we had the fuel tank, we had the oil, and here we have an engine. 7 liters of fun. 7 liters of fun, okay? Scrum teams are going to start out like little Volkswagen engines from the 50s and 60s. Remember those old 20, 25, 30, 36 horsepower motors? Yeah. So I was into V-dubs when I was, 12 to 21. And then I graduated to American Muscle. And now it's reprogramming the car, which is fun to do. You just plug your computer in and warranty voided. That's what it should say when you do that. Thank you, sir. You have increased horsepower by 50%. You have now officially voided your warranty. So that way when you take it to the shop, right? It's sort of like when we hack our phones. No, I haven't hacked my phone. It's in its original state. Look, I just reformatted it and everything. Yeah, whatever. We need to be able to learn how to do that with cars. They need to just have dual boot options for cars. All right? Do you want the fun as hell option, or do you want the, factory setting, boring option? Give me the fun as hell option. That's what I want. Anyway, your Scrum team is that. They become a high-performing team. They become self-managing. They own the commitment. They own the work. They own the work breakdown. They own the estimates. So when it comes to the work, these are the guys that do it. Okay. Then when we get into more about the events. Those are our roles, but we have a variety of events, variety of meetings. I like the word events better because an event is fun. I'm going to an event today. I mean, you say that enthusiastically, and at the event, it's going to be enjoyable. There may be food and beer there. But if you say, I'm going to a meeting, the meeting's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to the meeting today. Nobody looks forward to meetings. All right, let's be real. My wife says, we need to talk. It's like, ooh. Right, guys? Right? That is the dagger through the eye. We need to talk. It's like, I didn't do anything. I'm innocent. What? I just want to talk about what we're having for dinner. Oh. Whew. She's going to watch this and laugh. Hopefully she doesn't make it 45 minutes into the talk. She usually doesn't. Okay. We have our daily Scrum meeting. This is where the magic happens. Okay. We talk about what it is we did, what we're going to do, if we have any impediments, any blocking issues. Now the Scrum Master is responsible for helping clear those blocking issues. Just like if you have a pipe and you have a bunch of rocks in it, they're responsible for clearing out the rocks or getting them cleared. They may not do the work, but they're responsible for it. We have the planning meetings, the beginning of a sprint. This is where the team works with the product owner to figure out what he or she wants to see built. They break it down into tasks. All right, tasks are estimated in hours. At the end, other events that we have a grooming meeting. This is where the product owner works with the team to refine what's coming up in the product backlog 2, 3, 4, 5 sprints away. They'll be looking at architecture. They'll be looking at changes. They'll be looking at desired customer needs for the future and planning that out accordingly. Not committing to it, of course, but thinking about it. We have the demo, customer demo and team retrospective at the end, otherwise known as the sprint review. This is where you have the opportunity as a team to say, look at how cool we are. We heard what you said. Is this what you meant? If you're like me, you will give the keyboard to your customer, which is like giving a baby a gun, and you will ask them to play. Now, depending on how comfortable you are in your engineering practice will depend on how comfortable you are handing over that keyboard. I am a firm believer in handing the keyboard over to the customer because it builds trust. And that is one of the underlying fundamentals of all this stuff is trust. We trust you. Here's the story that we said we would do. We think it's done. Go demo it. Really? I get to touch the keyboard? Yeah. Everybody likes touching the keyboard. It's fun. It means I'm driving. And then you get to say the evil laugh after that. Okay? Team retrospective. Team retrospective is for improving the health of the team. It's not for reflecting back on the project. It's for reflecting back on what worked for us in the last sprint. What do we want to do different? Are there any changes we need to make? This is the first thing that people always cut. It's the most important thing to do. Absolutely fundamental. Okay? We have a variety of artifacts. Now, I'm going to glance over this one because when you watch the video or get the slides, you'll get this. Okay? But I want to just show these to you because pictures are better than words. Here we have a sample product backlog. I like Excel. Use whatever program you want. There's lots of tools out there. TFS is one of them. In fact, anybody on TFS preview? Yeah, it's significantly better. It's not the same. It's significantly better and different. Product backlog. You can see the top right corner there. We have something called velocity. Now, this is essentially, how much you can fit in every bucket, every sprint. And you can see our stories are prioritized 1 through N, and they're estimated in something called story points. Again, abstract unit of measure, where a 2 is about twice as much as a 1, whatever twice as much is. We go through. This gives us a release plan. I can fit this in sprint 1, this in sprint 2, this in sprint 3. This continually gets refined. You're going to have things move up and down on this product backlog. That's okay. That's expected. All right? Once you figure out and you go through do your planning meeting, you have the output of a sprint backlog. Now, again, do it in Excel. Lots of great tools out there to do this. The best tool I find is note cards. Do it on the wall. If you learn how to use a tool manually, you will learn how to use a tool that is automated. And more importantly, you'll understand why. But in here, what we have is we take our stories, we break them down into tasks. This would be like taking 5 kilos of meat, slicing it up into 1 kilo chunks, taking that 1 kilo, cutting it into 250 gram pieces, and then even making it smaller because you're not going to put 250 grams in your mouth. I would pay for it, and I would love to see it and put it on YouTube, but you're probably not going to do it because you can't. Well, maybe some of you can. I can't. 250 grams is too much for me because there's people looking around going, yeah, I see a challenge coming. You got money riding on that? All right. So we break this stuff down. This is where the details come into play. Last responsible moment here, right? We're figuring out what we need done. We're tracking this stuff through burn-down charts. Now, if you read the new version of the Scrum Guide that was published in October of 2011, you'll see that burn-downs are optional. I like them. In fact, this has a cumulative flow background. You can see the yellow very big, work in progress. There's lots of work in progress. You don't want that. Lots of work in progress is bad. You want to be able to churn that stuff out quick. You can see this team didn't complete everything. They got half their work done. You can see they made significant cuts. As a Scrum Master, there's lots of information here that would allow you to optimize your team and take them through those stages of team development. Forming, storming, norming, performing, all with the goal of building a high-performing team. This is one of the tools that allows you to do it. So that's all great, right? You're sitting there saying to yourself, awesome, now I know what Scrum is, and I don't have to buy a book. I was able to go sit in this 1-hour class. I got all the training I need. I can implement it. All right, I'll install TFS and we'll be done. Everyone will be experts tomorrow or Monday. We'll give them the weekend maybe to think about it. But still, what does my job become? All right, and we've got to figure out what's the role of a manager now. The role of a manager is a variety of things. Number one, you've got to provide sponsorship for this stuff. If you don't believe in it, if you don't think that this is a transition worth doing, the team will not do it. And what's worse is when a team wants to do it, but as a manager you say, no, I don't want to do that. I would rather stifle innovation than allow you to be creative and learn. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not comfortable with Agile because I'm not a good leader or manager inside the company, and it scares me, so let's not do it. I think that's what you would normally hear. Now, some people are smiling and laughing. I find it entertaining. Okay, I was working inside of a company, a rather large company, where the group that I was in abandoned Scrum because there were so many issues inside the organization, the leadership team did not know how to fix them. We said, we are going to a traditional, I need to censor myself, traditional development method that is tried and true within the organization. At which point I said, you mean one that delivers every 5 years? That was not appreciated, of course, but we went from delivering 50 to 100 times a year to delivering 2 to 3 times a year. Right? Customer satisfaction, right down into the toilet, and a little bit beyond. Sponsorship is good. Transparency, protection. Let's talk about each one of these. Transparency is one of my favorite ones. This gets right back to the principles and values. You have to be able to promote it. You have to be able to allow people to show, here's what we're doing. Here's what's going on. There's an author I like. His name is Patrick Lencioni. And he wrote a book called Getting Naked. And no, it's not undressing. All right? It is about how you use openness to be able to show where you're at. It gets right back into the principles and values that we talked about earlier. Here's where we're at, the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right? Accept it for what it is. We're working to improve. Transparency is key, because if you start hiding information, people start losing trust. You want to know what's going on, okay? Protection. When my son was learning to ride his bike, I had, well, I guess all the kids. But it has hit me with the boy, who's now 9. He wanted to learn to ride his bike at 4 or 3. Okay, so he's out there and he's on the bike, and I could have taken 2 approaches. I could have taken the, oh, look at how far you went. Great job, encouragement approach, or the, you little bastard, you fell and scratched your bike. You've been watching the Tour de France with me every day. Get up, ride the bike now. What approach is going to give me the result that I want? Obviously not the second one, okay? Protection is just that. You have to be able to provide encouragement for failure. You have to allow people to learn new things. Riding a bike is a new thing. Driving on the other side of the road is a new thing. Learning to play the guitar is a new thing. You're going to screw up. And guess what? If that's bad, you're going to struggle, okay? And what's worse is if you're inside of a large company, you will see other groups say, your group is screwing up. As a manager, you have to provide protection for that. You have to let them learn and grow. And I'll show you some data as to why. A lot of this is built on failing early. Now, a lot of people they mistake Agile with failing, and they say, oh, when I fail in Agile, it's okay. No, failure's not okay. Failing early is. If you're going to screw up, let me rephrase, when you're going to screw up, do it as soon as possible. Get it over with so you can get on with being successful. Biggest hurdle that I see inside of companies today, though, is they incent the wrong behavior. What they'll do is if an individual or a group or a team decides to take a risk and the team or the individual fails, they're penalized. So when it comes review time, when it comes, bonus time, they say, oh, you screwed this up, so we're not going to give you a raise. But if you do stay the status quo, right, don't rock the boat, just do your job, yeah, you can keep growing. If you take a risk and you succeed, you get compensated more. I say this is BS and you got to throw this out, because if you want to incent innovation and creativity, you have to reward it. And if you do not take risks, you will not innovate. If you don't boldly go where no man has gone before, or where no one has gone before, I think is what they say in the new movie. Sorry, Star Trek fan. Any Star Trek fans? Yeah. All right. Sorry. What we're doing here is we're saying if you just stay the status quo, you don't even get a raise. Right? You're doing your job. I'm not going to give you more money because you're doing your job. I'm going to give you more money because you're taking risks. You're edgy. You're creative. You're growing the company. You're doing things different that is allowing people to learn, grow, expand, and blow our customers' minds out of the water. They are happy. We want that. Innovation and creativity. You have to allow people to fail. And that's okay. The last one is this, the transition cost. Managers struggle with this because, like I said in the beginning of this talk, people will say, all right, cool, well, I went to this class and I read about Scrum and we're going to do Scrum, and tomorrow you're all experts. Don't screw it up. Okay? Things will get worse before they get better. Now, this is sort of hard to understand, so let me simplify it for you. Let me simplify it for me. How many of you agree that going to the gym or exercising daily and eating healthy is good for you? Raise your hand if you agree with that. Eating healthy, exercising daily. I should do it. Yes, I should do it. Now, those of you that agree that you should, how many of you do it? Yeah. 5%. Congratulations. Right? Discipline is hard. And if you want to, the rest of you, if we say, yeah, I should probably do it, when you start doing it tomorrow, you're going to procrastinate. It's going to be really hard. You're going to feel worse before you feel better. Eventually, you will start feeling better, and eventually you will outperform. Let's say you decide to go ride the bike, okay, and you can go ride 100 kilometers in 2 hours or 3 hours, let's say, and you say, all right, well, let's go with 6 hours. And now I can come back and say I could ride the same 100 kilometers in 3 hours. Why? I've made it through that transition. This transition happens with everything. Things get harder before they get better. So when you're transitioning to this crazy agile stuff, you have to expect this. Now, if you want to get started with this, you need to get a sponsor. You need to get someone inside the company. You want to set a date on when you can do it. Figure out what you need to do to get there. Use Scrum or XP to be able to drive towards that. Have weekly iterations or weekly sprints and say, what are we going to accomplish this week to get this date set in motion? And go towards that. Okay? You're going to want to be able to understand what causes failure. If you don't have experience with something, don't modify it. This is my only real piece of advice on that slide. You can read the rest. I am not a chemical engineer. Therefore, I should probably not try to rewire the battery that is in here with some other battery. Or even, let's even make it more fun, right? Let's take this battery, because it's not a fire hazard, and let's play with it and see if I can, get this to power my phone so that my phone has a screen that's 50 times brighter. Would anybody like to do that with me? I have a knife. You can just cut it open. How hard can it be, right? It's a battery. Let's just attach some wires here and see what happens. And then you touch them first. But get your hand wet first. Do it while you're standing in a bathtub. Okay? You go tweaking stuff and you don't know what you're doing. Dangerous. Has everybody been doing this whole my next experience slide thing in the talks you've been to? Yeah, I struggled with this one. Then it came down to, it's like, why am I struggling? I'm struggling because I'm thinking. Well, how do I not think? What do I want to say? What I want to say is I want you to be disciplined. I want you to stay strong. You have to have a little bit of faith in this because it's going to be scary. You have to learn, you have to grow, and eventually you will win. That takes time. It takes courage. It takes focus. It takes determination. It takes the will to succeed, right? Better, faster, stronger. What's the Olympic motto? It's not better, faster, stronger. I don't remember what it is. Here's more information, my contact information again. Thanks. Enjoy your conference. Stay out of trouble.